Then I saw it again. I said, oh no. I don't do bugs. That's something about me. I do not do bugs. It's cold with the coverage. Local time, 2:22. And today, we're going all the way to Kentucky to visit 3 major cities to see which city has the best hotels. Hold on, it's the studio. Say what now? Oh, and we'll talk about some restaurants that we found while we were there. Back to you in the studio. I've been driving back and forth from Louisville to Lexington, mileage. If you know what song that's from, go ahead and drop that in the comments, because basically that's what I was doing. I came to Kentucky for work, not vacation. But after staying in multiple hotels and eating my way through Frankfort, Louisville, and Lexington, I found some places that I would absolutely go back to. And one thing I do know about traveling for work is nothing like finding a good hotel to stay at and some good places to eat when you're away from home. Now keep in mind, the hotels I decided to stay in were because I was gonna be there for a long time and my job was paying for those hotels. So there were parameters about how much money I could spend. At the end of this video, I will tell you the best city to stay in, the best restaurant to eat from, and the best hotel. Let's go. Okay, just a little backstory. This is my first time in Kentucky. I stayed in Kentucky roughly 3.5 months total. And I was working when I first got to Kentucky 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. So that didn't leave me a lot of time to explore or want to do other things because I was at work, go to sleep. At work, go to sleep. And then finally we got to work 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. And so then I was able to explore a little bit more on Sundays. So first place we're going is Frankfort. Frankfort is the city that I actually worked in. So it was very important to me to find somewhere good so I could at least get some lunch, at least. Because, you know, the hotels usually have breakfast. So I needed to be able to get lunch, hold me over until I got back to the hotel and the area I was staying to get dinner. One place that we found, which, oh, good. If you like Thai food, we went to Thai Smile in Frankfort. Now, I'm going to tell you, my favorite dish was the chicken fried rice. And I would add pineapples. Sometimes I would add basil. And I would definitely get like spice 4. If you like spicy foods, they know how to spice their food. Period. Now, I never did sit down in the restaurant to eat. My coworkers and I, we always got our food to go because we went back and worked during our lunch. We were getting to the money. But when you order, I always ordered online. When I ordered online and placed it in for pickup, it was easy. They always had your food tied up on the table with your name on it. And we went in there so much that they didn't ask us why we were there. They was just like, hey, we got our food, and we walked out the door because you could pay online as well. So I'm going to rate this restaurant into 4 different categories. We're going to do food, service, price, and would I return. So for the food, I'm going to give them 5 stars. Now, I did try different food at this restaurant, and I didn't eat anything that I was just like, oh my God, no. But their chicken fried rice, so good. They also had this curry puff. Inside the curry puff was chicken, sweet potatoes, and a little curry powder. And when I tell you good, it was like almost like a little cute little dessert that I would eat after my fried rice. But it was so good. And they give you so much food. So much food that I would eat half of it one day for lunch, and then I'll eat the other half the next day for lunch. For the service, I'm gonna give them 5 stars as well, because anytime I ordered online, and my job, let's say it was about 7 minutes away from the place, anytime I pulled up, my food was ready to go. And they were nice, they spoke, asked how you were doing, if they wasn't busy. For the price, I feel that the price is very affordable. Like I just said, I ate off this food for like 2 days. The portions you get are enough for 2 meals, depending on how much you like to eat. Because I had one coworker, that coworker would eat the whole thing in one sitting. So it just depends how hungry you are for that day. And the last, would I return? Absolutely. If I ever go back to Frankfort, I'm definitely gonna swing by Thai Smile. So now let's talk about the hotel I stayed in. When I got to Frankfort, that since I was working in the city of Frankfort, I was like, let me stay somewhere that's in town and it won't take me that long to get to work. So I found the Home 2 Suites. Now the Home 2 Suites, since it is suites, you usually get like a little kitchen area, a little living room. So I had a bed, I had the little living room area, and then I had the little small kitchen. I feel like it was like a little alleyway, basically. But the kitchen just had like a medium-sized refrigerator, and then it did have a microwave. You did have a little desk area. You didn't feel that you were totally in a hotel, but you knew you was in a hotel. The only thing I didn't like about that hotel was in the hallways, it was dark. I don't like dark hallways, especially after working 12 hours, and by the time you get home, it was either getting dark or dark. I don't want to walk through a dimly lit hallway. So I didn't like that part. Go ahead and rate this hotel. We're gonna rank it on location, cleanliness, the value of the hotel, and then would I go back? Location, I'm gonna have to give it a 5 out of 5. I wasn't that far from my job, maybe 15 minutes depending on traffic lights. I wasn't that far, so you can't beat that being down the street from your job. As far as the cleanliness, 5. I didn't have any issues with bugs. If I asked my room to be clean, they got the job done. The value of the hotel, I'm gonna have to give it a 3-star because it was dark in those hallways. I don't know, dimly lit hallways gives me the creeps. I don't like scary movies, and it was giving scary movies to me. Granted, you got in your room, you can turn all the lights on you wanted to, you know, bright lights from the windows. I just wish they had more lights in the hallway. And then would I stay there again? Probably not. However, if my job required me to stay in the city of Frankfort, I feel like that was the best hotel to stay in. I did see a lot of different hotels. I talked to my coworkers, some of those who stayed in Frankfort, and I feel like I was at the best hotel. I don't know. I didn't try any other ones, but just by riding by some and just the stories I was hearing about the other ones, I feel like that's the best hotel to stay there. But if I don't have to stay in Frankfort, I'm not staying there. And then since I was there for work, if you have to travel for work and you're in Frankfort, the parking area, it was easy to get in and out. They do not charge for parking, which is a good thing. The Wi-Fi is reliable. I did have to connect to the Wi-Fi to use it. So it was a good location. Very close to the highway. It may took me 5 minutes to get on the main highway. And then of course, would I book it again for a work trip? If I was staying in Frankfort, I would definitely stay there. I stayed in Frankfort for a while, but after the hallway thing, and I wanted to stay somewhere that had kitchens, like a full kitchen. I did not want to feel that I was staying in a hotel. I wanted to have a more of a homey vibe. So I decided to switch my hotel, and the first place I switched my hotel was Louisville. So we're going to go to Louisville, talk about some things that I enjoy about staying there. First thing I want to say, downtown Louisville is a vibe. I really wish I could have got a hotel in downtown Louisville, but when I went to visit downtown Louisville, I was like, this is nice. This is nice. When you're from a big city or live in a big city, going to other cities, not a lot impresses you because you have it in your own city. But downtown Louisville, just the strip of downtown Louisville, very nice, very nice. 2 places I want to mention about eating in Louisville. First one is going to be Guacamole. It's a modern Mexican restaurant. We're going to rate the food. The food was about a 4. Now, I've had a lot of Mexican restaurants, and the food wasn't bad. I just feel like it could have been better. I had like the chicken enchiladas. They did bring out these plantain chips when I first got there, and that was really good. Those chips were really good. And then I did have a couple drinks. It wasn't the best drink I've ever had, but they were decent. I think it's worth trying out. Service, a 5. They were straight to it. They were very attentive. They were very nice. And they checked on me just the right amount of time. It wasn't annoying. And then the price, I'm going to say that the price was a little expensive. You know, when you go to those modern Mexican restaurants, when they're like more upscale, they come with more of a price tag. So it was a little bit more expensive. I did sit down on the rooftop and you could see parts of downtown Louisville. So that was nice. And the weather was nice during that time of year I was there. And would I return? Yes, I would definitely go back to Guacamole and probably try something different because I only ate there once. But this is one of the places I ate there and I was like, I like it. I didn't have that experience with a lot of places there, but this was one of them. Now, the second place, I'm going to have to recommend Chicken King. Now, Chicken King is going to be one of those places if you like that type of food. So they had like fried chicken, fried okra, banana pudding. They had dumplings. I tried all kinds of stuff. They had Kool-Aid. So if you like that type of food, I would say try Chicken King, but it had all kind of things on their menu. The food I had, I'm gonna give it a 4. I've had better Southern type foods before, so I'll give it a 4. It wasn't bad, but I feel like it could have been a little better. Service, I'm gonna give them a 3. Now, at Chicken King, you couldn't go inside unless you were like working for a delivery service. So you had to go through the drive-thru. And at the drive-thru, it's giving like what you want when you order your food. And then when you get to the window, they have like this turn window where it's giving, they be getting robbed over there. I don't know if they have a problem with crime or not, but that was only like one of the restaurants I went to where, you know how you go to the bank and they put the little, I don't know, the little thing out for you to put your money in, and then it comes back and they close up the little doorway. That's how it was at Chicken King. They were not playing any type of games, but their food was good. The price, I'm gonna give it a 5. Very affordable. That's what you're looking for, affordable food. Chicken King is affordable. And then the last category, would I go again? Definitely. It's so many things on that menu I wanted to try, but I worked a lot. So I only had some time to go to Chicken King. And then of course there was other places I wanted to try, so I couldn't always be eating at Chicken King. But if I go back to Louisville, I'm going back to Chicken King. I'm gonna get in the line. Oh my goodness. The first time I went, it was so long. I'm like, this gotta be a popular place. Everybody in line for Chicken King. Second time I went, it was a little less amount of people in there, but there's so much stuff on that menu, like you can see, that I gotta go again. I gotta try it again. I also went to some of the bars downtown in Louisville. I didn't write down the names. I do have some cool pictures from some of them, but I would definitely, if you're in Louisville, go downtown, even if you don't like bars. Just seeing the architecture and things like that for downtown Louisville, and then just walking that strip, you can get your steps in. And of course, they have food there. So you could pick different places that you want to eat. Another thing I really liked about Louisville was when you're going into the city, the bridges, it was very beautiful there. They had really cute bridges. They have water that you can go by if you like water. If water is peaceful to you, they do have water that you can go and sit by. So landscape wise, I was like, oh, it's cute here. Now let's get into these hotels. I stayed in 2 different hotels in Louisville. So during the time that I was there, they had a lot going on, just different events all the time. So sometimes you'll be in a hotel and they'll say, we can keep you here for 2 weeks. And the next 2 weeks, you got to find somewhere else to go. So I did end up moving around a lot the hotels just because they had events that were already planned. They had car shows. One time there was a car show at my hotel. That's about the first hotel I stayed in, and then the second one. It was the Residence Inn in East Oxmoor by the Marriott. I had never stayed in the Residence Inn before this. I fell in love with Residence Inn. It was so nice. It was like a mini apartment. You had your room area, you have a living room area, and then you had a kitchen with a stove, microwave, refrigerator, the whole 9. And the bathroom was nice. It was clean in that hotel. Outside the hotel, my view, you could see like deers and stuff running around. If you're just sitting there looking, they'll come out sometime from the woods because it was close to a wooded area. This hotel was also close to St. Matthew's Mall. So you was probably like a 3-minute away drive from the mall. And inside that mall, they had Top Golf. They had Putt Shack. My coworkers and I did go to Putt Shack, had a ball. So that wasn't that far from your hotel. You didn't have to drive that far. And after working that many hours, you want to have fun, but you don't want to have to drive hours and hours and hours. Especially because I was still working in Frankfort. So from Frankfort to Louisville, that was about 45 minutes to an hour depending on the traffic. But because I liked this hotel so much, I didn't care about driving. So I definitely can say I fell in love with a Residence Inn. If you're traveling for work, these are the type of hotels that would make you feel like you're not in a hotel. Even the hallways were real lit. The breakfast in the morning, they did have good breakfast. And the staff, they were so nice that, you know, at some point I was like, hey, can I get a to-go container? They'll give you a to-go container to put your food in, because a lot of times I was grabbing the breakfast just so I can go ahead and get to work and ate my breakfast at work. So let's go ahead and rate this hotel. Location-wise, I'm going to give it a 5. I'm going to give it a 5 because it was so close to the mall. Wasn't that far from downtown, maybe 15, 20 minutes from downtown. It was nice things around it. So definitely a 5 for the location. Cleanliness, 5. Never had an issue with anything. And when I asked my room to be clean, I came back, room was clean. And then if you didn't get your room clean every day, they will leave towels outside in a cute little bag on your door with tissue in it, just in case, because they know they usually when people stay in residence in, they're staying there for a long amount of time, and everybody doesn't want their room cleaned every day. And me, I don't want you in my personal space every day. For the value of how much it costs, I'm gonna give it a 5 as well. That hotel was well worth it. I had a really good experience. So would I stay there again if I go to Louisville? Absolutely. I would definitely stay at the Residence Inn in East Oxmoor. By the time that I was getting ready to end my work duty, I ended up going back to Louisville. I stayed in the Residence Inn Old Henry. Talk about the good things of this hotel. They had good breakfast options, and they had even more options than the other Residence Inn. They had the to-go trays out. You didn't even have to ask anybody for the to-go trays. They already knew. They had different options every day, and they had really good options for a hotel that I felt. But the problem I did have. So when I first got to the hotel, it was at the end of my stay, so we weren't working as many hours. So I think I was off that Saturday and Sunday for some reason. I can't remember what was going on, but I was off 2 days that week. And I was just staying in the hotel, and basically I was just laying around watching TV, chilling for the most part. And I ended up looking up in the ceiling. I said, I think it's something moving. But then, I didn't see it again. So I'm like, let me watch TV. I could be tripping. Then I saw it again. I said, oh, no. I don't do bugs. That's something about me. I do not do bugs. So when I confirmed it was a bug, I got up. I moved all my suitcases to the living room area. I went downstairs and talked to the person at the front desk and like, hey, there's bugs in my room and I don't do bugs. So what we gonna do about it? And the guy was very accommodating. He was like, let me check and see what room we have. So he moved me. I was like at the 3rd floor, I do believe. He moved me down to the 1st floor. Now, when he moved me to the 1st floor, the room was a little smaller, but I didn't care. I was going home soon, but I didn't have any more issues with bugs. So, just gonna be honest about it. So let's go ahead and rate this. For location, I'm gonna give it a 3. This hotel was like surrounded by like a car dealership. They did have a Publix. So if you need to go to a grocery store, you could go to the grocery store. And they did have a gas station that I did end up walking to one day. So it was walkable to get to the gas station, get what I needed, and come back. For cleanliness, I'm going to give it a 3. I would give it a 1 for the bugs, but because the hotel went ahead and changed that situation for me real quick and moved me, because at the end of the day, there's people in and out those hotels all the time. I'm not going to say that the hotel was infested with bugs, because when I got to my next room, I didn't have an issue with bugs. So I'm going to give them, for cleanliness, I'm going to give them a 3. For the value, I'm going to give them a 4. I can't give them a 5. I just, the bug issue, the value, I'm going to give it a 4. And then, would I stay there again? It's going to be enough for me, because I'm not going back to that hotel. It was a bug. I just don't see myself going back to the hotel. And based on where it was located, the things it was located by wasn't of interest for me. And then for those people who are traveling for work, both hotels had big parking lots. Didn't have to worry about parking at all. And you didn't have to pay. Good Wi-Fi. Didn't have any issues with the Wi-Fi at those hotels. And then wasn't close to where I needed to be. Both hotels were still about 45 minutes to an hour from work. So it wasn't close. I just wanted to stay somewhere that didn't feel like a hotel. That felt more like an apartment. So that's why I chose to stay. Okay, so let's talk about Lexington. I did stay in Lexington while I was working in Frankfort. We're going to talk about 3 places that I found that were good to eat. And 2 of the hotels I stayed in Lexington. I know. I stayed in a lot of hotels. Okay, first place was Nick and Norman's. It was across the street from one of the hotels I'm going to talk about. The atmosphere in there was really nice. I've tried several things in Nick and Norman's. I had these crab cakes that were really good. I had a burger with some sweet potato fries. So far as the food, I'm going to give them a 4. I feel like it wasn't the most seasoned food, but it was really good cooked. It came out fast. I don't have any issues with it. Service, I went in there several times because it was straight across the street from my hotel. So I would get in from work, walk across the street, and go eat dinner. Every single time I went there, the people that were there working was really nice. Very attentive. I didn't have to go looking for them. So I'm going to give them a 5 for service. And for the price, I'm going to give them a 5 as well. Very affordable. What they were serving and the price, they matched up. And then the last category, would I go again? Definitely, I went to Nick Enormous a lot while I was there because of the convenience of the hotel I was staying in. The next place is Bella Notte. It was I hope I'm saying that right. It was a Italian restaurant. I went there once and I got a pasta dish. Very cute inside. Be good for some pictures. The food I had, I'm gonna give it a 4, just like a regular pasta dish. Just trying to be safe. I gave it a 4 because it didn't really wow me. It wasn't like, oh, this is the best Italian I ever had. But it still was good. So definitely gonna give them a 4. Service was a 5. The girl that I ended up getting, she was really nice, very attentive, didn't bother me too much. So I'm gonna give them a 5. And then as far as the price, I feel like the food and the price of the food matched, especially when you get your main entree, you do get a lot of food. So I feel like that was neck and neck. So I'm gonna give them a 5 on that. And then would I go again? I would definitely go again because there's some other dishes I wanted to try, but I just never got back over there to try it again. Went to Goodfellows downtown Lexington and got pizza. As you can see in this picture, the pizza was bigger than my hand. And I feel like I got a pretty good sized hand. It was a big piece of pizza. And when I go to different pizza places, usually that I haven't been to or I haven't heard of, I usually get just the cheese. I want to try it because I feel like if you mess up cheese pizza, then you shouldn't be in the business of pizza. To just me personally. That's how I feel. So the cheese pizza, I'm gonna give about a 4. It was decent. It was decent. I couldn't complain about it, but it wasn't like, oh, this is the best pizza around town. For as service, I'm gonna give it a 5. I had to wait a little bit for my food, so they offered like, do you want a drink, or just trying to make sure I felt comfortable waiting for them, even though I was getting my food to go. As far as the price, I'm gonna give it a 4. I feel like it was a little expensive for one slice of pizza, but that just depends on where you've been and what do you think is a good price for a slice of pizza. And when I return, I would go back. I like pizza, but I'm just not a pizza fanatic, but I would definitely go back. Now let's get into these hotels in Lexington. Let's talk about the first hotel. The first hotel I went to was SpringHill Suites. When I tell you, the hotel was nice. I was staying in that hotel about a week and a half, and I wish I would have stayed longer, but when I went to Lexington, my whole goal was to get downtown Lexington, because when you're downtown, you have access to everything and you don't have to worry about driving. And so when the hotel downtown became available, I left, and I wish I would have stayed at the SpringHill because it was really, really nice. You could walk to the outlet that was like basically across the street. It was the Fritz Forum outlet, and they had a good amount of stores. They had food over there that you could try, and they had a Whole Foods. It wasn't as big as those Residence Inn I mentioned, but when you first come in, you do have like a little living room. The place where the bedroom was, that was big. The bathroom was nice, very well lit. They had good lighting. I couldn't find the refrigerator at first. I was like, how they got a microwave with no refrigerator? This is crazy. But then I found out it was hot. It was like a false little door that I had to open. I didn't pull it hard enough because I was like trying to pull on everything to find it. So they had like a little mini fridge in there. So the only thing about that, I couldn't cook anything because it wasn't one of those full service kitchen. But for the time that I was there, I want to say I enjoyed myself. It was nice. And it was nice to be able to go across to the outlet and look at the stores and just find out different places to eat. There was different restaurants you could try that you could walk to, which when I got off work, I don't want to drive again because I already drove. Lexington was like 45 minutes to an hour from Frankfort, depending on traffic. So I didn't want to drive again. Having that accessibility to places was good. And then that Bella Notte, probably a 3-minute drive from that hotel. Very close. So location, 5. Close to, I could walk to places and didn't have to drive. Location was great. Right off the highway. Didn't take me that long to get to the highway to go to work. As far as cleanliness, 5. Didn't have an issue with anything. I asked my room to be clean. Enough towels. I didn't have to ask for anything. Hallway is well lit. I did laundry there. The laundry room was nice. Gonna get that a 5. Value, 5. I think it was worth the money. And honestly, I kind of wish I didn't move downtown, but I enjoyed my time downtown, which we'll talk about it in a second. But I definitely did like that hotel. And then would I stay there again? You can tell by my excitement. Absolutely. I would definitely go back there. The only thing is they don't have a full kitchen. So if I was traveling for work, if I wanted to cook, I wouldn't go there. But if you're not really a cooker and you don't care about going out and spending your money, it's a good place to stay. And you can walk walk to the outlet. Like, how can you beat that? So the parking, easy. Had plenty of parking. And you didn't have to pay for it. Wi-Fi, good. Like I said before, it wasn't that close to work. 45 minutes to an hour from Frankfort. So if you have business in Frankfort, just know that you're going to have to drive. And of course, if I am on just a regular like trip to Lexington, I would definitely stay there. If I'm there for work and I care about cooking, I probably wouldn't stay there because they don't have, or at least the room I was in didn't have a full kitchen. Now, let's talk about when I moved downtown Lexington. So I really didn't know what to expect with Lexington, being downtown, being close to the University of Kentucky. I thought it would be a more popping city because it was a college town, which downtown Lexington becomes alive at night, especially on the weekends. So the hotel I stayed in was another Residence Inn by Marriott, and it was like right there on the main street of everything that's popping in downtown Lexington. You like the nightlife, this is probably the place for you. Granted, you're gonna have to remember that when you try to go sleep at night and it's the weekend, you're gonna hear a lot of people talking, a lot of traffic, a lot of sirens. So just keep that in mind. If you like the city life, that's gonna be for you. If you more of a country person and want to be quiet, then you probably should go to the SpringHill. Now, the Residence Inn in Lexington, it did have the kitchen, the living room, the nice bedroom, nice bathroom. So it did have the whole, I feel like I'm in an apartment and not a hotel kind of feel. Another good thing was the Residence Inn was attached to the Marriott. So it was like a little hallway that attached them. So my coworker had, I think, Platinum Elite with the Marriott. So because of the Platinum Elite status, we had access to the lounge. So when I got work, go over there and get me a snack. They always had the nice, cute little pickup snacks and drinks and stuff. And of course, you're downtown, you're in the middle of everything. You can walk anywhere. So that was when I was able to walk across the street to Nick and Norman's, straight across the street from the Residence Inn. Goodfellows, was able to walk down to Goodfellows. Anywhere you wanted to go, basically, which was really nice because I didn't want to drive again. So for location, 5 stars. Middle downtown, real close to the highway. Cleanliness, 5 stars. Didn't have a problem with anything. They came, cleaned up the room. Good lighting in the hotel room. Value for my money, 5 stars. That you can't beat being downtown and being in a nice hotel that doesn't feel like you're actually in a hotel. You can't beat that. Would I stay again? Absolutely. If I had to go for work, I didn't have to stay in the city that I was working in and Lexington was close, I would definitely go to the Residence Inn in Lexington. And it was really popular, so I didn't get to stay there as long as I wanted to because they had events going on. And of course, people are going to book hotels that are downtown. But if it's availability, I will get it. As far as the business travel ranking, if you have a problem with parking garages, can't say I recommend it. You do have to park in a parking garage because you're downtown. So I'm not gonna say I had a hard time finding parking in that parking garage once I figured out which door went to which hotel, because it was one door to go to the Marriott and one door to go to the Residence Inn. Once I found out where that door was, I will park close to that door. So I didn't have a problem with parking, but if you're there, you're gonna have to pay for parking unless your job covers it. So there is a fee to park downtown, but it wasn't hard getting in and out that garage. They did have good Wi-Fi, and then as far as getting to work, like I said, it was like 45 minutes to an hour. If you don't mind driving, why not? And for a work trip, I would definitely book it. For just regular leisure, if I was just there in Lexington visiting, I would still stay at the Residence Inn that's downtown Lexington. Now we know the places to eat and the places to stay. We're gonna talk about some things that surprised me about Kentucky. And then I'm going to tell you the top places that I recommend that you stay, eat, and which city I think is the best. So at this time in life, I was traveling a lot for work and I experienced different states and different cities. And I don't know what I had in my mind about Kentucky. I didn't know too much about Kentucky, but I was kind of like, we're still in the South. How are people going to behave in Kentucky? And outside of work, because that's a whole nother situation, but outside of work, the people were really nice. I used to eat Hardee's a lot for breakfast. So sometimes I didn't get breakfast from the hotel. So I would stop at Hardee's and they were so nice. They were nice. Anywhere I stopped at, anywhere outside of work, the people were really nice. So granted, I can't speak for the whole of Kentucky, but I can say that I had a good experience. If you're from Kentucky, let me know in the comments so I can say hey. Another thing that kind of like surprised me was all the geese. Oh my goodness, there were geese everywhere in freaking Kentucky. And while I worked there, I used to walk around the pond just to get some little exercise on my breaks. And the geese was there. At one time, I finally figured out they had babies. They didn't play about their babies. If I got too close, they started, and they made this like little hissing noise. Sound like a snake. And I was just like, I want no parts in it, I promise you. I don't want no issues. Let me speed up and get out the way. And then we just be randomly walking across the streets. From where I'm from, we dealt more with ducks. But I was like, geese, and then they're so big. Why do birds that big fly so fast? It was blowing my mind. And they would be everywhere. Why are there so many geese in Kentucky? Y'all let me know. Because I don't know. And I was just shocked every time I would see them. And then they would just, sometimes there'll be a few of them in the little lake I would walk around. And then sometimes there'll be a lot of them. So once the babies got bigger, then I guess they were okay with more geese coming to the lake and they weren't trying to run them off, because I did see them run off a few geese. But why are there so many? Please let me know. Another good thing about Kentucky, it's surrounded by a lot of states. So you can go a lot of places. And when we did start getting those Sundays off, my coworkers and I, we decided that we would go visit some other states. So we did go to Cincinnati. And downtown Cincinnati was beautiful. You on Ohio is here. Across the river was Kentucky. It didn't take us, I don't know, was it like an hour and a half or something to get to Cincinnati? So we went to Cincinnati. We went downtown, got out, walked around. We did eat over there somewhere. Don't remember the restaurant. But it was nice be able to go to another state and city that I had never been to. And we weren't that far, so it didn't take us that long to get there and to get back. Then one weekend, we went to Indiana. We went to Indianapolis. And we got out, walked around just a little bit. We kind of mostly drove around Indianapolis and saw the difference in like the houses. Because when you go to different cities in the United States, it seems like you're in different places, because not one state and city are exactly the same. They may be similar, but I don't feel like you go to somewhere and it's exactly like this city. I don't feel like you could say that. I was able to go to Ohio and Indiana, and I've never been. So that was nice about being in Kentucky, because you're not that far away from places. At one point, I did go to another city that was like 3 hours south of Frankfort. I cannot remember the name of the city for nothing, but my little brother was there for work. So I was able to go visit him at one point and then just drive back, because I feel like that drive wasn't that, I did it all in one day. It wasn't that long, and I had the day off. So I'm like, why not go visit and just come back? So if you're in Kentucky and you're there for work, consider how far you are from other states. You could probably knock out a couple cities and states if you wanted to. We was thinking about going to Chicago, but then we decided that Chicago a little too far to go and come the same day, and we didn't have enough days to really enjoy the city. But if you have maybe the whole weekend off, not that far from Chicago, that you can go ahead and go over there, stay for a couple days, and then come back. So let's talk about our winners. As far as food, if you are in Frankfort, working in Frankfort, visiting Frankfort, or close to Frankfort, I would say try Thai Smile. Now, they do have limited days they're open and limited hours, so you might want to check that before you try to go over there. As far as the hotel, this is so hard. It's definitely gonna have to be out. My option's gonna have to be out of the Residence Inns for sure. Well, let's stop. This is so hard. Okay, I want to say that my favorite hotel was the Residence Inn, East Oxmoor in Louisville. Oh, that's hard. But it's just the access to the places you can get to. And then you can do, like I said, the Put Shack and the Top Golf. I'm going to say that was the best hotel, even though there was some that was like this, neck and neck for different reasons. Then I'm going to say the best city. Ooh, this is hard too. Best city, I want to say Lexington, downtown Lexington. I want to say that's going to be the best city. Ooh, that's very hard. But that's going to be the one I'm going to say is the winner. Let me know if you've been to any of these hotels, tried any of this food, and let me know how you feel about these particular places that I mentioned. It's Cold with the Coverage. Let us know which hotels would you stay in, and if you have some better recommendations, leave them below in the comments. Also, do you have any recommendations for those restaurants? We hope you enjoyed your time in Kentucky, and until next time, peace out.